welcome you to my residence. I'm sure I'm one of the very few former governors who were tenants for a long time. So this is a new place I moved in December. And this is welcoming you to the very first press interaction in this building. And looks like moving forward, we are likely to have a series of interactions. So I want to thank you for finding time to be here in my residence. Now, the main issue I want to talk about is already out there in the public space. You will recall that for almost 2 years, as a member of the Senate Committee on Electoral Matters, we've been working a lot on the amendment to the electoral laws of this country. And we've held a series of workshops and joint sessions, even meeting with INEC, with the technical committee and consultants and other stakeholders, public hearings at different places in Abuja and Lagos severally. And we all agreed. I mean, the joint committees of the National Assembly, House and Senate, agreed with the consultants and with INEC itself too. Crucially, with INEC, we agreed on a framework that will be presented to both chambers and passed, that will regulate the conduct of elections in this country moving forward. But we couldn't take it before tragedy struck. The deputy governor of my state collapsed suddenly and died. And that threw the whole state, and to me and my family, into mourning. Yesterday was the very first time I was attending a sitting since his funeral. We buried him a few days back, which you all know. And even when I came back, I was so devastated trying to recover. But yesterday I managed to attend the emergency session because of the the importance. And while I was in Bayelsa, I was shocked that the House of Reps that received the same document passed theirs without any ado, without any hassles, without any addition or alteration, because we were very consultative leading up to the drafting of the final copies. So, I was shocked that the Senate not only delayed, because we thought it should have been passed before Christmas, but reasons were given and they took it 2 weeks ago. I was not at the sitting. I was still in Bayelsa. And I was told of what happened, that a very crucial clause, one of the very important clauses, were deliberated upon and agreed unanimously at the joint committee level, was rejected. And instead, a similar clause with less potency and clarity in the previous law was brought back. And that was very shocking to me. And I knew that something had to be done. And I wasn't surprised, therefore, when Nigerian civil society organizations and different groups raised alarm and voiced their outrage, some taking to the streets. And Nigerians generally showed their anger. And which was why yesterday the Senate leadership convened the emergency session, making all of us to suspend our budget engagements to sit in plenary. And you all saw what happened. An amendment, a motion was brought in for rescission of that decision. And then the clause that had been previously rejected was brought back. But this time with a proviso. To the effect that if there was failure in communication facilities and it was not possible for transmission electronically, that the manual copy will serve as the primary source of evidence, that kind of thing. So what I'm here to say to you all and to Nigerians is to call on the conference committee members to go into that conference and adopt the House version. They should adopt the House version in its entirety, because that version was what the joint committees and all of us, consultants, and even INEC, agreed upon. And INEC itself assured us at the committee interaction level of their capacity to transmit electronically. And they have the infrastructure to do so. If the law makes that compulsory, as it has happened now, it is the duty of INEC to ensure that appropriate technology is acquired and deployed to make it happen across the country. I know there will always be, once you talk of electronic transmission, as we did even in the 9th Senate, we had to go for a division. In the 9th Senate, under Ahmed Lawan, yes, it faced the same resistance from the majority party. Then our numbers were better, and we called for a division, and I was one of those. So the issue of electronic transmission has become so central to electoral integrity in our country because of what has been happening, and particularly with the controversies that have arisen from 2023 till date. There is unanimity of opinion across the country, and even majority of members of the National Assembly. And that was why the House of Reps passed it without any question. I'm actually very surprised that this became an issue in the Senate, of all places. If the House could pass it, because usually the House is more volatile, because the national interest requires that we support INEC to carry out electronic transmission. I am actually in favor of electronic voting in this country. I have argued for it, we have fought for it, but we've not been able to achieve it because of skepticism and all the emotions and sentiments people attach. So, but we have gotten to the level where INEC on its own has brought improvements from card reader 2015. They brought BVAS, which is a dual identification system. They have built on it also to provide the electronic viewing system, the IREV. And that IREV is for public transparency and accountability. The IREV is to ensure that every member of the public can watch and view what is coming in as votes from the polling stations. And sort of having electronic voting, that is the best we can get now. Because very often, the manipulation of election results and the distortion of the mandates of the people occurs not only at the polling stations, but crucially more at the collation centers. So, with electronic voting, electronic transmission, which has become mandatory, even though the proviso seems to have made exceptions to it, and we'll talk about that, is that after the polling officers, the presiding officers have finished the elections and entered the results, and the agents have signed, they are mandated to transmit electronically through the device, that Beaver's device, communicating that result, that same copy that is given to everybody. They snap it, that is, make a copy, and send it, transmit it electronically to the IREV. And if you have all of that in a ward, in all the country, across all the wards in Nigeria, from all the polling stations, then from that IREV portal, the collation officers at the ward level will have something to compare with. So for those who are waiting for the collation centers to go and mobilize security and talks and force people to write change figures as they have been doing, to say it's adjourned, and then they now do whatever brigandage, or say it's inconclusive and they do whatever brigandage, that won't happen. Because once the polls close, the figures are already there on the IREV. That's very important. And that's why the issue of electronic transmission being mandatory, everybody is talking about it and people are emotional about it. And we all support that. Yes, the Senate version also has supported it, because the word used there is shall transmit electronically, the presiding officers. Now, but the proviso is where a lot of Nigerians are concerned about. The opposition members, if we had the numbers, unfortunately we don't have, would have shut it down. But we didn't have the numbers yesterday. And as you know, the opposition has been so depleted. And this is the danger of a one-party state, where a party becomes so overwhelmingly dominant that whatever it decides to do, rightly or wrongly, gets passed. So this is where we are. But my call is on the members of the conference committee to go into that conference, because by our standards, parliamentary practice, they don't go into the conference and to pick and choose. They go there and look at the two versions and adopt any of them. They don't pick and choose. So my call is for the conference members to restore the integrity and faith in the electoral system and in the National Assembly by voting for the House version. If I were in the committee And of course, everybody knows why I can't be in that committee at this time. They won't, the leadership won't. I will support the House version because it is clearer, no controversy, and reflects what was generally agreed by all. So, ladies and gentlemen, I call for vigilance. I commend Nigerians for their concern, and I urge them not to give up. Nigerians should not give up on our democracy. They should not, because of the developments in the Senate concerning this and the controversy that it has generated, lose faith in the electoral system or withdraw their confidence and trust in elections. That will only worsen our situation. Rather, my call is for Nigerians to gear up more and do their best to continue to push for appropriate changes. The prize for liberty and democracy and freedom is eternal vigilance. I commend their vigilance, but I also call for resilience. People should not give up just because there are obstacles, just because laws are not ideal. We should not give up. Just because institutions may not be performing up to expectation, we should not give up. The fight for cleaner and freer elections must continue, no matter the fact that the laws as passed by the National Assembly may not meet your expectations now. It's an ongoing fight, and it should not stop. They should push for the House version to be adopted. And even if any version ends up being adopted and passed and signed into law, you should not give up. You mobilize, sensitize, and go to your polling stations when campaigns begin. Mobilize and sensitize, and go en masse to your polling stations. Cast your votes for whichever party or whichever candidate of your choice. Ensure that the presiding officers there obey the law that has made it mandatory by whichever version to electronically transmit the results of your polling station to the IREV. That is mandatory. We expect that the general rule should prevail and not the exception. The exception should not be the norm. It is only there, even if it ends up being the version, it is only there to deal with extreme cases where there is complete network failure. And we don't expect a situation that INEC and its presiding officers and officials will allow a situation where people will take advantage, see the law that provides so as a loophole, and then write results and claim that all over the country there was no network. We know that in all our communities, people make phone calls, and anywhere you make phone calls, INEC presiding officers can transmit electronically. Anywhere you stay and send money or receive money, INEC presiding officers on polling day should be able to transmit electronically. So I want to call for more commitment and perseverance and education and enlightenment of our citizens. And I hope that the political parties and candidates will do so. And INEC, through its guidelines and manuals, will stipulate the general rule, which is that every presiding officer in Nigeria, by whatever version that is being adopted, has a duty to electronically transmit the polling results to the IREV, and not to turn the proviso as a cover for subversion of the democratic wishes of the peoples of Nigeria. You, gentlemen of the press, have a duty also to continue to enlighten and sensitize our people. On this note, I will stop. But there are other issues that were not properly covered, in my view, by the Senate version, which is why I'm calling for adoption of the House version. At our committee work, we agreed that the existing 3 methods of party primaries should be protected and retained, which is that a political party can agree on consensus. They can adopt consensus. And we defined it so that it does not become a consensus that is contrived. We said that all the people who have presented themselves and bought forms and done screening must volunteer and voluntarily write their withdrawals. We protected it. So consensus is there as an option. The second one is, if there is no consensus, they have to go for primaries, which is mandatory by the law. There are 2 types of primaries: direct primaries and indirect primaries. And we prescribed it. For direct primaries, every registered card-carrying member of the party has a right to participate at the ward levels. It will be organized by the party, and INEC will observe it. We agreed on it. The indirect primary is when the political party, through its elected delegates and stakeholders defined by the law and also by the party constitutions, will now select their candidates and officials. So 3 methods. But the Senate version threw away indirect primaries, which is wrong. We cannot by law force all political parties, big and small, whether they like it or not, to adopt the direct primary that has become synonymous with the APC primaries. The APC has chosen to apply that for most of their primaries. But that's up to them. They have no duty to force direct primaries down the throat of every other party. Allow parties the option of choosing which form of primary they want to. So all of that we discussed and agreed, and is contained in our report. The House version has passed exactly that. Everything we agreed, they passed it. But I don't know those who probably were not even in the committee, or even if they were in the committee, were not part of the deliberations, maybe didn't attend, didn't follow up, or didn't show interest. But now people have been running this way, running that way. Selling fear. These laws, these drafts were agreed on by all of us, irrespective of party affiliations, in the national interest. But unfortunately, this is the direction it has turned. The leadership tried to accept that what they did didn't satisfy the national interest, and yesterday on their own brought a motion for rescission. But then there are concerns about the proviso that has been introduced. But again, on that proviso, even if that is the version passed, INEC, by their guidelines and their instructions and their manuals to the presiding officers and other officials, have a duty to require mandatory application of the rule that says the results of polling stations must be electronically transmitted to the IRF. That is now compulsory by law. The issue of electronic transmission is very well known and is so important. I mean, because that directly affects the integrity of the electoral process at the grassroots level. And so everybody is really rightly outraged about it. But I've also talked about the mode of primaries, which is also important. And the other issue of the time frame. I think the time frame as abridged, the time frame as abridged by the Senate version, I support it. Because of the delays that have already been occasioned, INEC cannot even meet the notice, the number of days because it's already, So we have to, the Senate version is right in abridging the time within which notices for elections can be issued, and within which some of the other processes can take place. I believe that there is wisdom in reducing the period between primaries and general elections so that we don't shut down governance. We spend too much time politicking and electioneering and such that people who are in offices are all thrown into the political fray, I mean, now and again. So I think there's sense in abridging it. And I think that 3 months to general election may be like it. That's like what has been done. So the abridgments of time are important because the first time that should be recognized is the period for the notices of elections. And already, because of the delay in passage of this, INEC ordinarily cannot meet their, so they have to shift it. And we have to amend the law to enable them adjust the time frame. And that affects every other time frame. So yes, there may be other things, but I don't really think too many things have been left out. What we can see is this abridgment of time, which makes sense because of where we are now. And secondly, the issue of primaries, and then electronic transmission. Maybe some other details, but not as fundamental as this. Yes, they were very bothered about the crisis in the PDP, which has festered for so long, and which frankly speaks to a lack of leadership and failure of leadership by those who are in positions. The former working committee, the governors who are calling the shots. They keep calling the shots and take leadership decisions, strategic decisions, sometimes without consulting people, or even take advice you give. And before you know what is happening, they who have taken those decisions without listening to advice, they are the ones to bail out. They're the ones to bail out. All of them. So that's what has been happening. So the PDP is not in a good position right now. I am still in PDP because I'm faithful to the platform that has given my people so much and also given me so much. But quite frankly, the PDP, the leaders of PDP have messed up completely. And the governors have missed every opportunity to pursue and achieve a reasonable solution to save a historic brand like PDP that they are toying with. Maybe they think it's their personal property for most of them. But the PDP is a national brand. It's an integral part of the political history of this nation. But that's the kind of platform they are playing with. We had several opportunities to have resolved these issues amicably. Even within the lifetime of the previous working committee, under whose inept leadership, this crisis started and blossomed and consumed a major political party that leaders in Nigeria sacrificed everything to build. The governors contributed to it, taking sides, not taking decisive actions when they should have, dividing the party according to camps, and allowing whatever little ambitions they had to go into their heads, and not even learning that an opposition party required every stakeholder's input and involvement. If PDP had 28 governors, 30 governors, and governors were strong, and you have now been reduced to less than 10 or 10 governors, shouldn't it occur to you that you are not the only stakeholders? But they kept carrying on as governors and leaders of party. No problem. This is what their leadership of the party has cost. Every one of them feeling that they own the party. Just because they are governors. And even people who brought them into offices and supported them mean nothing. And didn't take decisions, didn't consult, and kept allowing the party to move from one crisis to the other. Avoidable crisis to the other. From the time a prominent member of our party, in person of the Minister of FCT, while being a stakeholder of the party, was nominated minister in the current administration, they should have known how to manage it. From that time, so they were all dancing Kokoma dance. Dance this one morning, in the afternoon, dance this leg, in the night, change the dance step. That's what, because I was in the AD, I was state chairman of AD 1998, and national legal advisor of the AD. When one of our leaders, the late Chief Bola Ige, SAN, was nominated and appointed minister by President Obasanjo in his cabinet, we knew what crisis that led us into. We knew that. And they didn't learn from it. They didn't learn from it. So the governors have to take responsibility, and other leaders who, even while the house was collapsing, were more interested in calling themselves leaders and taking positions without consulting people and without even building structures in their home states to win for the party. But they were content being PDP leaders, working committee, BOT, and all kinds of names. So it's unfortunate what has happened to PDP. What has happened to PDP, you can't even wish an enemy. That a party formed by greatest Democrats, great Democrats, once you leave the founding fathers, those who fought for independence and were political leaders in the 50s and 60s and so on, once you leave them, you talk of the people who formed PDP. You know. Once you leave the NPN, the UPN, NPP under our great leaders, GNPP, and all those, including my leaders who formed the Niger Delta Congress. Once you leave those patriarchs, you talk of the Ekwemes, you talk of the Solomon Lars, Adamu Shiromas. Some of them are still alive. Jerry Ganadem, they were the youngest. Sule Lamido, they were the youngest of them. Abubakar Rimi and so on. A great party that they formed for all Nigerians. irrespective of ethnicity, irrespective of religion, irrespective of even political divides that they had before. They coalesced, all of them, formed a big party and selected umbrella as a symbol. That wherever you are in this country, the rain and the sun will not touch you. This umbrella will protect you. And under that umbrella, my Niger Delta people got vice presidency, got presidency of Nigeria. And that's why we remain sentimental to the PDP. And as you know, captains are not the first to bail out. Once there is disaster, a true captain stays until all effort to salvage has failed. But I will take a decision. Well, it seems PDP's case is not giving one any hope. It's not giving, but we are still praying. And even at the last minute, something good can happen. It's a matter of people agreeing to do what is right and what is reasonable. But they will not. They will not. Every small boy, every small person who is one person, one office now, will just carry on as if they own the party. Party that we admitted them, gave them tickets, fought for them, supported them. So that's where we are, but we still hope and pray that people will come to their senses and the efforts, and we say the labor of our heroes, perhaps should not be left in, because it's very sad what is happening to PDP. It is the duty and responsibility and prerogative of the governor to select his running mate, his deputy. They worked well. I brought the two of them together. They worked well. And this is 2 days or 3 days from now, they will be 6 years. Just 2 more years to go. Government is winding down. Very soon they will go into transition mode. It is not my desire to be involved in that. I cannot give the governor a name. He's been governor for 6 years. He has known people. He has seen everything he didn't know before. The decisions I took for him when I brought the both of them together, that's not my style. I allow him to pray and take those decisions, which only he should take. And I've told everybody, those who want to be deputy, to go to the governor and not to me. I'm only available as a former governor and the one who brought this current, designed this current government. I'm available only to advise and support, which is the attitude I've adopted since, that has made you people not to hear of stories and songs from Bayelsa as you hear from other states. There are some states where they say, I day my day, you day your day. Nobody worry, nobody. I'm not calling any name. So when I was leaving, I left without any strings. I didn't give conditions. I didn't give any. If I'm available, the governor knows that, for consultations. If my input is needed, well and good. I wish the governor and the government the best in the remaining years. That's my attitude. Never asked anything, never done nothing. So I stay on my own. I did my own day. So, and it has brought peace and stability. Those who were thinking that Bayelsa will boil for them to laugh at me, or laugh at the governor or laugh at our people. They have failed. And as I said in my interview, I'm determined to disappoint them to the end. I'm determined even to disappoint the governor too. 6 years, he has not seen interference. It won't come. He has not seen meddlesomeness. It won't come. I'm not interested in that. He has not seen disrespect. It won't come. I want him to succeed. And I want Bayelsa to build on the peace and stability that I worked so hard to institute in that state. And the development. Key roads, most of them we started. Key projects are going on. Some finished. I'm happy. So I'm happy. I'm happy about peace. I'm happy about stability. That's my... when you finish governorship, you don't have to be a governor when you are no more a governor. It is the duty and responsibility of the person you have assisted to realize that, there's somebody who assisted me here. He needs to know about this. He was here before. He has some experience. Let me tap into that experience. And most importantly, let me give some honor and respect to that person who sat on this seat before me. And even that person who God used to bring about my elevation. Those are not my those are the responsibilities of the person. What God uses you, I keep saying, what God uses us to do for people is within our control. But how they respond, what they do to us, what they say about us, how they treat us, is not within our control. It is theirs. And men are watching. God Almighty is also watching. So you leave it for them. So my advice to my friends and my brothers, former governors, colleagues, is don't worry yourself much. Just as we live and God has used us to support them, most of them, the ambition was not theirs, it was ours. They didn't even say, I want to be governor. They didn't say they wanted to be governor, most of them. We brought them, say, come and be governor. We have a duty to distance ourselves, pray and support them. I'm not saying it's not painful when they say certain things or do certain things or allow certain things to be done. But my advice, and I'm old in this game now. I'm 6 years as a member of this club. And every day I welcome new and new entrants into that club of former governors who brought successors, fought everything for them to install them. And I advise them, say, do as I'm doing, don't interfere, stay far, far. Even when I go, I hardly stay in Yanagoa. I go straight to my village and stay there. Allow the governors space and time to do their job. And even if they disrespect you, they badmouth you, blackmail you, I hear all kinds of stories from around all the states. We should pray for them to realize that one day they themselves will be former governors. And time runs very fast, too. Time runs very fast. So it's my advice to my former colleagues who are my friends. It's painful, but leave everything for God and move on. Particularly for those of them who are even well-placed. They are very lucky. Some of them are very lucky. And after governors, they are almost like governors or more super governors. They should be happy. They are luckier than some of us. We manage quietly and move on. Only God knows tomorrow. move on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.